What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Farzy Show. My name is Mark Farzetta. Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. What a win by the Phillies last night. Couple of rain delays. JT Realmuto stays hot. Gene Segura hits his first home run since coming back from the IL. Keith Hernandez apparently still hates the Phillies, so that's exciting. And the Philadelphia Eagles give us some news, unfortunate news, when it comes to Jason Kelce. He's going to be missing a couple of weeks. It's Jason Kelce. He's not a mere mortal like you and I. This guy is a superhero. So I have every ounce of confidence that he will be making it back by the start of the season, and he will not miss any time as the Philadelphia Eagles center, once again, because the man is not a mortal like you and I. Also, just putting things back to baseball while I'm thinking about the injury front, Bryce Harper looks like they're not really confident in Bryce Harper making it back to play, at least in right field. They're dialing back his throwing. He has been a designated hitter throughout the season up until he broke his thumb. There was some hope as recent as 3 weeks ago, that when he did come back, the elbow was feeling fine. So that when he did come back, he might just play in right field and spare Nick Castellanos that strife. But does not look like that's going to be the case. Bryce Harper is dialing back the throwing, and it looks like he's just going to be concentrating on hitting, according to Phillies manager Rob Thompson. Let's start with, I do have to say this. I am thrilled. I want to get this right to the top of the show here. I am thrilled to welcome our guest today, Brian Westbrook. Brian Westbrook, Eagles all-time great, catching out of the backfield, running out of the backfield. Everybody to a man wishes that Andy Reid gave him the rock a little bit more often or a lot more often. And that would have helped out this team in terms of running the football. And I can remember a game where the Eagles were getting ready to play the San Diego Chargers, and LaDainian Tomlinson was coming to town. And I remember people asking Brian Westbrook about the amount of touches LaDainian Tomlinson was getting, the amount of, rushing attempts, particularly rushing attempts that LaDainian Tomlinson was getting and Brian Westbrook was not getting. And what would Brian Westbrook do if he got that many opportunities to run the rock? And Brian Westbrook said, basically, you got to talk to coach. You got to talk to coach. The old not throwing coach under the bus. I hear the question, and yes, I could. Yes, I could give you that same type of production. But how about this? Now, Brian Westbrook, you've heard him as an analyst over the years, most recently. But how about this? A children's author. We'll talk a lot about this. He wrote a book along with the amazing Leslie Van Arsdale, former CBS 3 sports anchor. He wrote a book along with Leslie Van Arsdale, illustrated by Mr. Tom. And hat tip to my friend Kevin Kincaid, who was on the show the other day. This is one of the illustrations. To the people watching the show, who does this look like?
And for the people on the podcast, we're showing the picture of a mouse that looks exactly like Andy Reid.
There's no way that's not Andy Reid. Mustache, glasses, the menu type of play chart in front of him. Yeah, there's no way that's not Andy Reid. So we'll ask him about that. And I do want to let the good people know that if you want to see Brian Westbrook, he'll be appearing this Friday, August 12th at noon at the Brandywine 100 Library, 1300 Fowles Road in Wilmington, Delaware, signing copies of The Mouse Who Played Football. And you can register on Eventbrite. Just follow Brian Westbrook, and you can see all the great things that he is doing right there. Follow him on all his social media platforms. Let's jump it back to the Phillies. This lineup is red hot. This Phillies team in general is red hot. 61-48 now on the season. They've won 11 of 12, and they've won their last 6 in a row, still enjoying the second wild card spot in the National League. And last night they go out there through a series of rain delays, and they got action from Alec Bohm. They got action from JT Realmuto, who continues to rake. He hit an absolute bomb in the fourth inning down the left field line that just, I think, is still traveling. It was a question of fair or foul. Fair, and it's gone, and it was gone. Home run, JT Realmuto. Then a couple of batters later, Gene Segura steps to the plate, and he's got one of them patented on one knee type of home runs that he absolutely buggy whips the barrel of that bat through the zone and just smacks that ball over the left field wall. So it's good to see him get that home run and him do that little shimmy in the dugout with Rhys Hoskins afterwards. Two were keeping a beat. That was nice to see. Zach Wheeler didn't have his best stuff by any means last night. Threw a lot of pitches, though, last night, a season high, as a matter of fact, but was able to get through that game and get himself a nice little outing for the Phillies as he was able to go. It was a total of 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 3 walks he issued, 109 pitches in total for one of the Phillies aces, along with Aaron Nola. But the Phillies get the 4-1 win, and that just makes you feel all tingly inside to know that they're just keeping the good vibes going, starting this series off against a very much subpar team with a victory. Win this one today, and you're talking about another series win for the Phillies. I am, yes, disappointed that it doesn't look like you're going to get Bryce Harper back in right field. You're going to get him back in September. It's looking more and more like instead of September-ish, it's going to be September. I'm going to hope a little bit that you're able to get him in the lineup come August, the end of August, even before September. But it appears like right now, I setback. I was thinking about the proper word to describe this. Setback might be a little too dramatic, but with this little hitch in the giddy up, no. It seems like right now Bryce Harper will be a September rejoin. And as we talked with our friend Matt Curran a couple weeks ago, or last week rather, Bryce Harper will be a September call-up for the Phillies. Yeah, I'll take a reigning MVP as the September call-up, sure. But it looks like he'll return to the designated hitter position as opposed to any hope of having him in right field to be able to play defense for you as the season will go on through September. But overall, this team's just playing some great baseball. And seeing JT Realmuto hitting the way he's been hitting, Alec Boehm hitting the way he's been hitting in this lineup for quite some time now, Gene Segura coming back, hitting the way he is. When you do get Bryce Harper back, how much more dangerous will this lineup be? And Rob Thompson was asked about that after the game last night. Here's Topper on what it could mean when you have Realmuto hitting, when you have Alec Boehm hitting, when you have Gene Segura back and hitting the way he is hitting right now, and then add Bryce Harper to that mix. How dangerous can this lineup be?
Oh, it makes it huge, and I mean, when Harp gets back, and if these guys continue to swing the bat the way they are, our lineup is deep and long, But there's usually a couple guys in your lineup that's not swinging the bat well. That's why you have hitting coaches and pitching coaches, and because you're always there to help. But right now we're getting some pretty good run production.
I'd say you're getting some pretty good run production, no doubt about that. And the thing is, it's consistent, and it just seems like now whenever I see, like we always talk about those guys, and Ryan Howard's like the first guy people from my generation will reference that when Ryan Howard steps to the play, oh, you don't go to the concession stand if you're home, you don't get up and go to the bathroom or go to the kitchen, whatever. Oh, he's up in this or he's up in this next inning. I'm going to sit right here. But it's the same thing when you see now in terms of expectation. It's the same thing where you got JT coming up, you got Alec Boehm coming up, Rhys Hoskins, you got him coming up in the order. Kyle Schwarber pretty much for the entire season has been that type of guy. But it's like the expectation is there where these guys could do something special in their at bat. I'm not looking at Alec Boehm like he's going to hit you 50 home runs, but I'm looking at Alec Boehm like he's going to continue to hit. I'm going to look at JT Realmuto like he's going to swing the barrel of the bat through the zone and smack a ball out there to left field. That's what the expectation is. Kyle Schwarber, hey, he's a little bit more of a gamble because you don't know if you're going to get a monster 430-foot home run or you're going to get a bunt down the left field line, down the third base line because they're playing the shift on him. It keeps you guessing in that regard. And last night, you saw him get as many singles as home runs this season. He had more home runs than singles. Last night, he got a single, and he went even on the home runs, and then he later scored in the ballgame as well. It's just the consistency that is really getting to you here in Philadelphia. Has the schedule been great? Am I saying this is a World Series contending team right now? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this is a playoff team. The Phillies will be in the playoffs. I said before the season started, my prediction was that they were going to win a wild card spot, at worst the third wild card spot, and here they are in the division where it looks like 3 teams will be making the playoffs, from the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies, of course, as well. Speaking of the Mets, Keith Hernandez, who the hell do you think you are? You got a job, bro. Your job is to be a broadcaster in baseball in the National League East for the New York Mets. You are going to do Phillies games, like it or not. to steal a phrase from our Doc Rivers, or Duck Rivers, as you guys would prefer over in the chat, like it or not, you're going to do Phillies games. Keith Hernandez, in case you missed it, said on yesterday's broadcast that he was trying to get out of doing the Phillies games because he doesn't like the way the Phillies play baseball. Not necessarily fundamentally sound. And as his broadcast partner pointed out, oh, well, maybe they'll be up to your standard considering that they're hot this time around. The Mets have had some pretty bad baseball teams over the years. And Keith Hernandez is choosing to be particular about the Phillies? About the Phillies? Seriously? The Phillies have had a reigning NL MVP on their roster up until the last couple of months with the broken thumb. Phillies now have had one of the best records in baseball under Rob Thompson. And now he's choosing to look at the Phillies and go, these guys are below my standard. Oh, my goodness. The arrogance of this guy. Good Lord, man. I was, the first thing that crossed my mind was like, whoa. This is the Mets broadcast. Like, I understand this year the Mets are on fire. Good. Yeah, congratulations to the Mets. You guys are having a great season. But Keith Hernandez, longtime Mets broadcaster, is choosing to look down upon the Philadelphia Phillies. Ballsy. I can almost understand it when Chase Utley was playing here and he was killing the Mets and everyone in New York hated Chase Utley. Like, I could get that. And then everyone in New York even hated Chase Utley even more. Oh, I shouldn't say all of New York, but the Mets fans. And everyone hated Chase Utley when he broke Ruben to hate his leg when he was playing for the Dodgers. Like, I could get a kind of disdain for Chase Utley, who, of course, throughout his career would spank the Mets, and Pat Burrell, who would do that as well years ago. Like, I can think of that. Like, oh, this team. Like almost like where it's almost like a form of respecting the team because they're so good you don't want to do it. But say they don't play to your standard when you're the Mets broadcaster? Hey, this year, I get it. The Mets are great. But come on, man. You're going to look at the Phillies to be particular? Ballsy for the Mustachio Bashio, Keith Hernandez. I know that made its way around the internet yesterday, and I just the first thought I had was a Stewie from Family Guy. Who the hell do you think you are? Hey, all the respect to the world, the guy had a great playing career and all that, but good Lord, man, I've never heard a broadcaster say that another team wasn't worth his time. Oh my! I look. It's not like he's not going to be on the field. We can't boo him whenever the Mets play here in Philadelphia. We can't do that. But the thought I just had across my mind was, dude, what is the matter with you? That's Keith Hernandez, ladies and gentlemen. All have good times for Keith Hernandez. Had to comment on it today. Kind of had to. Let's move it over to the Eagles. Training camp going on. I had a conversation with Brian Westbrook yesterday. I had a conversation with Brandon Lee Gouton yesterday, Bleeding Green Nation, who will join us on tomorrow's show. And kind of the buzz in camp now amongst a good amount of the Eagles fans, from what I understand now, and the players, it's like, you play your first game on Friday, so everyone's really eager, but no one is expecting to see the starters play in that game. Cam Jurgens he'll get his reps at the center position, obviously, with Jason Kelce being out for the rest of the training camp and preseason. But the buzz right now seems to be like, let's get on with it. It feels like, and this always happens in football, there's too much talk and not enough action. And that's why it's always amazing to me that football is as popular as it is, because you play once a week and then you talk about it for 6 days. And then you talk about it for 6 months, and then you get the now 17 games back. Like, there's more talk than there is action. And even in this case, the action is watered down because you're talking about training camp, and then you're going to be talking about preseason. So anything good that happens, it's preseason, like it gets dismissed. Here's all I want to see. I want to see the young guys look like they belong, and it's always been my MO. I want to look like guys belong. That's my request for the preseason and training camp. But when you are questioning the skills of a quarterback, as we were last year and as we're doing this year, and even me, who's all gung-ho about Jalen Hurts and has faith that he will be the guy again next year for the Philadelphia Eagles, really what it comes down to is prove it. And there's the only way you prove it is by playing in regular season games. Even if it's only against the Detroit Lions, prove it by playing against regular season games. So whatever you see in training camp, whatever you hear in training camp, whether he's missing A.J. Brown, whether he's overthrowing Devontae Smith, whether he's overthrowing Jalen Reagor, whatever it might be, okay, that's what he's doing at practice. It feels like we are fed up with all the malarkey and rigmarole and BS that surrounds Jalen Hurts, all the conversation, and we just want to see the proof and whether or not it's in the pudding or not. That's the state I'm at right now when you talk about Jalen Hurts. It's a similar state that it was at the end of last year, but I knew even after the draft, we were still going to be in the same situation. I didn't feel like the Eagles were going to go after a quarterback last year. Now they have another 2 first-round picks in next year's draft. So it feels like it's just building and building and building. How good will he be in the second year of Nick Sirianni's scheme? How good will he be under Shane Steichen with him calling plays more often than he did last year? Will this team be more of a pass-first offense than they were a run-first? Like all these questions that we have and we debate, and then we speculate as to whether or not it's actually going to come to fruition or not, and whether or not our inclination is correct, whether or not our instinct is correct as to whether or not they're going to execute more pass plays, and Jalen Hurts is going to be more accurate, and Jalen Hurts can be able to diagnose what's in front of him. It's all BS until they start playing games. So we're at a point right now, at least I am, and I feel like a lot of people are as well, like, all right, let's get on with it. Let's try to get the real answers to these questions about whether or not Jalen Hurts can be the guy going forward. So if he is going to be the guy going forward, he needs to rely on playmakers. And the guy that everyone is throwing his way, and he is throwing the way of, I should say, is A.J. Brown. A welcome target, supposedly best friends with the quarterback. Well, Jalen Hurts spoke yesterday during his news conference about the guys that he has to rely on, not just named A.J. Brown in this offense.
We have a ton of great playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, we feel. I think A.J. is just making plays, and that's what he does, you know what I'm saying? So we just want to go out there and execute what's called, and make plays.
Opinion will make him so good after the catch.
Him? Yeah. Well, he's like 230. He's a big guy. He has very strong hands, and he can run. So he's done it. He's done it for a while now in the league for 3 to 4 years. 3 years? Just 3 years, right? He's done it for 3 years. So. Hopefully he continues to do it. I know he will.
He brings in the experience. Devontae Smith is great. Experience isn't there yet. That experience will come. A.J. Brown is put that. Jalen Reagor, experience a little bit more, but talent, no, not so much. At least not yet. Looking at Quez Watkins, they seem to be on the same page. One of the guys that has really stood out by a lot of accounts at training camp is Quez Watkins, which is great to hear. Great to see. He's going to be your third receiver this year. Kazir White, Zach Pascal, seeing what these guys can bring to the table as well. Experience. That's what a guy, if a young quarterback like Jalen Hurts needs anything from his receiving core, it's experience. It's guys that he can trust, guys that have a track record of getting things done at the NFL level. A.J. Brown certainly brings that. Now, if you've been following social media, you have seen the two refer to each other, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, as best friends. They're best friends. Isn't that adorable? I believe, and I think this question is being asked by Bo Wolf of The Athletic. I think this question is in jest. It's in tongue-in-cheek. It's asked in a lighthearted manner. But Jalen Hurts wasn't having any of it. Bo Wolf asking a question to Jalen Hurts yesterday about A.J. Brown and their best friend relationship.
Devontae ever tease you and say that he's jealous that you call A.J. your best friend?
Nah, so don't even start that.
In case you didn't hear that, does Devontae ever get jealous or say he's jealous about you calling A.J. Brown your best friend? No, so don't even start that. They didn't even crack a smile. Like, don't even go there. Do not even go there. Don't start the favoritism stuff. First thought that jumped to my mind, and this is the way down the line, over dramatic, not going to happen. This is not going to happen, okay? I'm not saying this as a prediction, okay?
For everyone listening, not just the people in the podcast, but for everyone listening, this is not me making a prediction.
When you talk about favoritism, the first thing that jumps to mind is Terrell Owens and Jason Witten and Tony Romo. If you remember that, I don't even want to call it a love triangle. Well, I guess it was a love triangle because Romo did later break down and cry about Tony Romo. That's my quarterback. But But you don't want the favoritism thing where the quarterback is only dialed in on one receiver. Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz. Carson Wentz throwing to Zach Ertz too much. Zach Ertz sets a record, beats our guest today, record for receptions in a single season at 90, and Zach Ertz goes 116. It's nothing against Zach Ertz. That's a lot against Carson Wentz. Oh, it's throwing to it too much. Well, Zach Ertz, pretty good target. But yeah, you got to spread the ball around a little bit, right? Favoritism never goes well for a quarterback because then other guys are wondering, when are they going to get theirs? When are they going to get their opportunities to have an impact? Not just in the game, but on the stat sheet where contract bonuses lie. When are they going to get their chance? Jalen Hurts doesn't even want to joke about that. That ain't funny. And I don't blame him. But you know the old phrase, iron sharpens iron. A.J. Brown spoke yesterday about this Eagles quarterback group. Now, we've talked a lot about the wide receivers, this group being maybe the best the Eagles have ever had with Devontae Smith, with A.J. Brown and Quez Watkins already. Like, this is a pretty damn good wide receiver core. Zach Pascal, this is a pretty damn good wide receiver core. We've talked about the corners as well. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox playing the cornerback position. It's a pretty good group of corners as well. Well, this pretty good group of corners seems to be the iron that is sharpening the other iron, which is A.J. Brown. The corners and the wideouts are going to sharpen by each other because they're both made of iron. A.J. Brown, I want to like to go up against these corners, especially Darius Slay in practice here in Philadelphia.
Whenever I'm going against Slay, I know I got to be precise, man. Every step matters. Pad level matters. And I got to be clean in each and out the break. And if I don't, it can go the other way. And Bradbury is the same. So he's a longer corner. He does a great job with his hands. And it's the same way. I got to be on my game. So going against these guys in practice, it just helps us ready for whoever we're playing against. So, like, I think I really get my best work each and every day of practice.
Iron sharpens iron. You always want to make sure you're going up against the best in practice. And here's one thing I will say that would give a credence of validation, a degree of validation to any training camp stats or training camp reports about how these guys are performing at practice. Practice makes perfect. How you practice is how you'll play. If I'm making the argument that training camp matters, training camp stats matter, if I'm making that argument, that's pretty much the only one I can hang a hat on. I don't make that argument. There is a little bit of truth to it, but how you practice is how you'll play. And practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect play. All that thing, right? All the adages your coaches threw at you when you were in 8th grade, whatever it was. Listening to these guys go at it and talk about it after the fact and how much they're elevating each other's games, because bottom line, practice or not, these guys do not want to get shown up. Practice or not, these guys don't want to look bad. Practice or not, these guys want to win competitions, albeit one-on-one competitions with their own teammates. They want to win those. These guys are professional competitors, not just professional athletes, professional competitors. So you bet A.J. Brown doesn't want to lose in one-on-one coverage with James Bradbury or Darius Slay, with Slay covering him. No, he doesn't want to lose that. So that is what is making each other better, and hopefully when the season starts, we'll see a little bit of these guys taking a step forward because of who they had to battle in practice. Now, James Bradbury, a hell of a corner, will have an opportunity to play the number 2 target on number 2 wide receiver on every team as opposed to number 1 as he did with the New York Giants last year. But if you notice, A.J. Brown wears a necklace around his neck, and on the necklace it's JB. It says JB. So the initials JB. Somebody asked him if he respected James Bradbury enough to the point where he was wearing a necklace with James Bradbury's initials. And A.J. Brown handled it in a very A.J. Brown fashion.
You say, is this a James Bradbury? Yeah. Do you think I have another man's initial around my neck? Nah. That's funny, though. You try to get a reaction out of me. That's what it was. Yeah, you got it. You got it, though.
I'll tell you right now, if this team is as good as I expect it to be, A.J. Brown is going to be a lot of fun to cover throughout this entire season. I feel like the guy just gets it. Like, he gets us. He understands us. I think there's a mutual admiration there, and I think he is blown away by the support he's already gotten in Philadelphia. Tweeting out after the open practice, and we showed the tweet right here on the show, 30,000 people for a practice. I'm going to quote Allen Iverson. and not a practice rant. I'm going to quote Allen Iverson when he said, "Y'all love too hard. Y'all love too hard." You're damn right we love too hard. Let me tell you about my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut. And coming up in just a second, we're going to talk to my friend Brian Westbrook about his book, All Things Eagles, and Miles Sanders. What does Miles Sanders need to do this year to get himself another contract to stay here in Philadelphia? We'll talk to Brian Westbrook coming up in just a second. But my man Steven Singer is at the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. And he's been in the love business in Philadelphia for over 40 years. He's helped people get engaged, buy the right present. And now he is giving something that no other jeweler has ever given, the perfect price. Most other jewelers, they have to mark things way up, see what they can get away with. Then you got to go in there, you got to negotiate, you got to haggle, you got to feel like, oh, did I do this right? Did the person next to me pay less than I did? At Steven Singer, forget about all that. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price. So things aren't marked way up, and you got to feel like you got to be under pressure the entire time you're there. No. You don't got to worry about a sale. You don't got to worry about haggling. You don't got to worry about some coupon or promo code. You're taken care of from the second you walk in, because you're going to get treated like a family member at Steven Singer Jewelers. A real jewelry expert will walk you through all the beautiful, dazzling diamond inventory, and you'll know that you're getting the perfect price at Steven Singer Jewelers. Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at IHateStevenSinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price every day. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, let's get to it. The man, the myth, the legend, Brian Westbrook joins the show right here. Joining us right now, the great Brian Westbrook. Brian, I thought I saw you running around a lot during your career, and then here you are. You're all over the place. You got this great children's book out, man. The hustle never stops, does it?
The hustle never stops. The love of helping people, the love of being involved, being in the community never stops. And that's what this life is all about. I'm 42 years old. What am I supposed to do? Sit at home and watch TV shows and stories all day long? I gotta grind.
If you did, do you have a go-to TV show? Do you have something you like watching?
You know, I watch trash TV, so I watch reality TV, and I have no problem about it. I watch Below Deck. I watch all types of reality TV, and so I have no problem getting into it.
No, you're the guy that's watching the show that when I walk through the room, my wife's watching the show with everyone yelling at each other, basically.
That's it.
That's it. Life's not that.
I get so much joy out of watching it. I mean, so much joy. So I happily watch it, and I always get excited about it.
I'm always like, you're on a yacht. It can't be that bad. Everything's fine. This is wild, and I mean this. You don't stop hustling. This is the children's book that you wrote along with Leslie Van Arsdale, who's awesome, by the way. I love Leslie. This is the mouse who played football. When did this idea start? How did it start? Why write a children's book now?
Well, the idea started 2 years ago. I had a conversation with Leslie. She had some thoughts about potentially writing a book. And I said, well, I have some ideas, and she had some ideas, and we kind of combined these two ideas, well, our multiple ideas. And 2 years later, a book pops out. And really, you know, I tell people all the time, if Leslie would have came to me with this idea 20 years ago when I was 22, it would have made no sense. I would have had no frame of reference. But because now at 42 and I have 3 kids and a wife, you know, I have Bria, Brian, and Brio, 9, 5, and 3. Now that we're reading books to our children every night, and as a parent, I'm always trying to teach them things. And you know, Mark, you have kids. Sometimes the kids, they don't want to hear the story from the parents. So we can use our stories, our story time to teach these lessons. And when Leslie and I started talking about it, I'm like, this is a great message. This is a way to allow our kids to understand something that is a little bit bigger than them. And the message to me rings true. And I appreciated that. And that's why we came to the result of writing a book.
Are you using some of your own life experiences in this book that you're using to help, you know, teach kids about courage and commitment and things like that?
Well, all of my life experience. I mean, this book certainly is loosely based around some of the things that I went through. But I've always been told that I was too small. I've always been told that you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You have to go to Villanova. You know, you went to Villanova. You're not good enough to make it into the NFL. You made it into the NFL, but you'll only be a third down back. Oh, you know what? Maybe you'll be a third down back, and maybe you'll be a special teams guy. So I've heard that throughout my entire career. And the more and more people I talk to, children from all ages and then up to grown folks, we all have been said at one time or another that you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough in this area. You need to do this better to even be considered. So at some point in time, we all can relate to a mouse that said that is someone has said that's not good enough. And we all have been said, you know what, here's what we expect. And when someone says this is what their expectation of you, but my expectation of myself is much higher, I don't care what anyone else says. I'm going after my expectation. And so, truly one of the biggest messages in the book is it's not left up to others to determine what you're going to be able to do in life. That's left up to me, what I have on the inside of me, my heart, what I believe in, what I'm willing to work for, what I'm willing to sacrifice for, what I'm willing to dedicate myself for. I'm not concerned with anybody else's thoughts. That's just their thoughts. That's their opinion. They control that, not me. And so truly that's one of the major themes in the book. Another theme in the book is also very simple that, some people perceive my size, me going to Villanova, as a weakness. I use that as a strength. I use my size as a strength. I use my quickness as a strength. I use my time at Villanova where I learned how to pass block, where I learned how to catch the ball in the backfield, where I learned how to read defenses. I use that as a benefit, something to my strength. And so many people looked at it as a weakness. I never viewed it as a weakness. I always viewed it as a strength.
Mm-hmm. I do want to let people know that this book right here, The Mouse Who Played Football, you're going to be signing copies of it coming up this Friday at noon. You'll be down there at the Brandywine 100 Library, 1300 Fowles Road in Wilmington, Delaware. Now, you and Leslie wrote it. Now, I do have to ask who illustrated it. I just want to make sure. Can I see it here? Illustrated by Mr. Tom.
Did a great job with the book. I mean, some of these illustrations, it's weird. So as you are, you read to your daughter, your son as well. They're young, but the kids, they're visual, so they want to see it with mouse and big red and different things that we have inside of the book. The kids love some of the illustrations. As I read it to my kids, and of course they're looking at the pictures just like everyone else. They love the illustrations, and I think Mr. Tom, our illustrator, did an awesome job.
I want to give a hat tip to my friend Kevin Kincaid of Crossing Broad. So there's no way this isn't Andy Reid in mouse form, right? For the people on the podcast, this mouse that I'm looking at looks exactly like Andy Reid. This is Andy Reid, loosely based.
It is Andy Reid. We always thought it was important for us to have a Philly book with some things that point direct to Philadelphia. Some of the scores, some of the people. When you see the city. The landscape of the city, the skyline, those types of things. Those are important pieces. Philadelphia, for Leslie and I, is a very important city. Certainly was able to cut my teeth in Philadelphia for a very long time. And I wanted to kind of pay homage to the city in some points in this story.
That's fantastic. Well, make sure you people check it out. It's it's sold out in 2 days on Amazon, if that. It's on the Barnes & Noble top 100, top 2 Barnes & Noble list. I mean, this book is just literally flying off the shelves and off the website.
Number 2 on Barnes & Noble's list, top 10 at Amazon. We've done a really good job of promoting it. But the story sells itself. One of the things that I've told so many people, Mark, and I think this is really important, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the book is because at this point in my life, obviously football is a part of my story. There's a legacy there. There's stats. You can go back and watch YouTube films, things like that, things that I tell my kids. When I wake them up in the morning, I say, hey, watch this YouTube film. This is Daddy 15 years ago, right? So I make them do that. But more importantly than that, and I know you understand this too, that you want to leave a legacy for your kids. Be a good person, go in the right direction, leave something for them. I think that's partly what this book is about. We're leaving a legacy in words with our children, not just my kids and your kids and Leslie kids, but kids around the country, right? The other thing that was super important to Leslie and I was that we give back not just our words, but also financially. So 50% of the proceeds from this book, 50% off the top, will go straight to charities, children's charities, to allow them to continue to be empowered, for allow them to continue to find the pathway to success. That was something that was super important to us because, listen, anybody can talk about it. Anybody can talk about helping kids. Anybody can talk about, I would do this if I had money. Listen, forget that. We want to make sure that our children, the children, especially in our Philadelphia area, have the ability to be supported financially. That's why we said off the top, no matter what happens, we sell 1 million copies or we sell 1 copy, 50% of the proceeds will go directly to children's charity in Philadelphia.
That is absolutely fantastic. Has Andy Reid seen the mouse version of himself? Has he said anything about that?
I haven't. I have not. I'm actually, it's funny. My wife is sending out copies of the books today. And so Andy, of course, is on that list that I want to make sure that he gets a copy for himself and his grandkids and things like that. So I'm sure he'll have a great time. He'll notice exactly who the big red mouse is.
That looks familiar. Brian, let me ask this. From the time you retired to now, it's been a while. When you look back at how the game has changed, how has it changed from the time you decided to hang up your spikes to right now?
Well, the game has become much more specialized. You're not seeing guys that, especially on the defense side, you see pass rushers, not guys that can do both. They don't run stoppers and pass rushers. You're seeing linebackers that are just run stoppers, and on third down, they're off the field, right? You see the same thing with the defensive line. You see cornerbacks. Oh, you know what? I only play zone. I'm only a zone cornerback. I'm not a man-to-man. Oh, you know what? I'm only a press man-to-man guy. I can't play off. So the game has become much more specialized. Even on offense, you see some guys, especially at the running back position, you know what? Hey, I run the ball. I don't catch the ball out of the backfield. That's just not what I do. I do this. And so it's become more specialized there. I think the other thing that is super important to the NFL, and I think for the players as well, is that they have done a much better job and they paid a much more attention to making sure that player safety, player health is paramount. And, listen, if you want the health of these guys, you want Tom Brady to play 45 years, you want, these running backs to be able to have an extended career, same thing with every position, you got to protect these guys. That's why you're seeing some of those Guardian helmets in practice. That's why you're seeing less contact in practice that you've ever had. That's why you're also, I talked to my guy, Mark Ferrante, the Villanova head coach, and I'm like, listen, when I came to school, you were offensive line coach at the time. We had 3-a-day practices. We were hitting every single day. And now, you got, an hour and 15-minute practice. You guys are, and the same thing in the NFL. Times have changed. Not very many 2-a-days, not very much contact. The coaches have found out that they want to use sports science to make it all make sense, to make sure that at the end of the day, they have healthy players for the first game of the season. That's what they're worried about, not as much of getting the grind of football that we used to have back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So what do you make of Nick Sirianni's camp so far? Because some people are criticizing it a little too easy, but it seems to be par for the course nowadays around the NFL.
Par for the course. If you compare it to what they did when I was playing, it's much easier, right? If you compare what we were doing at the time when I was playing in the early 2000s to what they did when Harold Carmichael played, when they went to camp at the beginning of July, then we were too easy, right? So it's always getting easier, especially to the older time players like myself at this point. And so, listen, I think that as long as they can come out and are prepared to play physical football, then, it doesn't matter to me how much camp they did or how much physical activity, how many hitting and tackling to the ground that they did. If you're ready to tackle people and punch people in the mouth at the first game in September, then I think the camp is going to be successful.
What was going through your mind last year when you saw this Eagles offense go from a pass-happy offense to all of a sudden a run-first offense, something we haven't really seen in Philadelphia in quite some time? Were you thinking, man, what could I have done when this type of run-happy offense? Or were you thinking, wow, this team is just using what works?
I think I gave Nick Sirianni an awful lot of credit. Gone are the days that I even consider being able to play football anymore. I look down at my knees and my ankles, and I'm like, no, I don't even want to run up the steps anymore. I give Nick Sirianni an awful lot of credit. I mean, just think about it. Your whole career, and relatively short career because he's a young man, but your whole coaching career, you're waiting for this great opportunity for you to be the head coach. You've thought long and hard the type of offense you want, the type of coordinators you want. And now that you get this opportunity to run this offense that you've been thinking about your entire career, your quarterback's not able to perform inside of that offense. So you have to change everything to do a complete 180 to make sure that you are satisfying your quarterback and the players around him playing to his strengths. To me, that takes an awful really good coach. I mean, an awfully good coach, a disciplined coach, a coach that says, you know what, it's not about me and my system. It's about the success of my players. I appreciate that because I was around a coaching staff, especially in San Francisco, that said, listen, we're going to run the football. I'll never forget this. Mike Singletary came in. He said, listen, first down, we're going to run the ball. Second down, we're going to run the ball. Third down, we're going to run the ball. And if it's 4th and 10 on 4th down, we're going to run the ball. And I was sitting in the back, and I was like, we are in trouble. He didn't have the ability to pivot, to change things around and go in a different direction. I give Nick Sirianni an awful lot of credit for that. I just hope in that Jalen Hurts at some point this season can find a way to be able to navigate in a bit more pass-heavy type of offense. If he can, this team is built to have success.
My feeling has been going into the season, we're going to know in the early goings, maybe the first 3 games, to know whether or not Jalen Hurts' work in the offseason will pay off when it counts the most. Do you think he has put in that work, and do you think it will pay off?
Well, I'll tell you this, Mark. I've seen Jalen Hurts a couple times in this offseason, and the only thing that he's talked about is the amount of work that he's put in. So there's no doubt in my mind that Jalen Hurts has put in the work to be successful this year. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. When you watch Jalen and you hear him talk, when you look at his past, the grind has never been questioned. Ever, 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 not one time. The grind has never been questioned. Now, has he improved enough to be able to carry this football team the way that we all know that quarterbacks in this league have to carry football teams? We don't know the answer to that. I think I've heard people talk from practice. They said he's had some ups and downs. He's had some good days, some bad days. I want for Jalen to be consistent. I want for Jalen to be consistently good because I know the pieces that they put around him this offseason, if he's consistently good, this is a very good football team. And that's what this thing is all about. So if Jalen can find a way to be consistently good, limit the turnovers, complete a high percentage of his passes, now you're talking about a football team that's going to win 11, 12 games this season.
From the time he walked off the field last year to now starting the season, in a few weeks now, how much farther does he have to go to be a guy to get at least one more contract in Philadelphia? He'd be the starting quarterback for next year, the year after, and the year after maybe. How much farther does he have to improve? How much more does he have to improve to at least be the guy for a few more years here in Philly?
I don't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. I think he had 3,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Let's talk about stats. We got to get those interceptions down a little bit more. And remember, there was a run-heavy offense. So we want to get those interceptions down a bit. We want to get the touchdowns up, 25 plus, right? And we want to get the yards to 4,000 plus yards. If we get to that point, you add some rushing yards in there as well, we're talking about a considerable jump for Jalen Hurts. Now, efficient passing, being able to look at that first read and say, you know what, that's not the answer. Let me go to my second read without running out of the pocket and starting to run the football. He's going to have to be able to win from the pocket. He's going to have to be able to win from outside the pocket, but throwing the football. If he can do that consistently and effectively, then again, we're talking about a team that when you add A.J. Brown, second year Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert's doing nothing but continue to get better. You talk about an offensive line that will dominate just because Jeff Stoutland's the coach. He's that good of a coach. I think Miles Sanders being in the contract year actually matters. I think he'll have a good season. And defensively, you've gotten better on every level of your defense. If you add all those things together with a quarterback that is efficient and throwing touchdowns instead of interceptions, to me, that adds up to easily the best team in the division. Now, can you be one of the better teams in the conference is the question. And once you start answering that question, it's going to come down to playoff seeding and all those other things. But this is going to be a very good football team, provided that Jalen Hurts has improved to the level that I think he has.
You mentioned the man right there I was going to ask you about next. Miles Sanders seems already like he's got a chip on his shoulder going into this season. How much will he use that as motivation to have for lack of a better term, a prove-it year and maybe stick around here in Philadelphia for a few more years?
We've seen it. We've seen what players do when it's contract time. You work a little bit harder. You run a little bit harder. Maybe that game where you would have set out because you were only 65%, maybe you play that week. Maybe that's the week that you say, you know what? I'm going to be hurting on Monday, but I need to play today. That changes when it's your contract year. So this season, when I'm hearing Miles Sanders say things like, I got to prove it, I got to find my respect, all that means is you're working harder in practice. And usually over time, when you work a little bit harder every single day in practice that you normally have, then you get better. And then in the game, you get better, right? And so from the time Miles Sanders has stepped into Philadelphia, the field there, I've said he has game-breaking speed. He has the ability to do things in space. He has the ability to affect the game. His first year, he caught 50 passes. He hasn't caught over 30 these last couple of years. He has the ability to catch the football. Now he has to get into the passing game. That means he has to find some confidence in his quarterback. And so when you talk about a guy that has that skill set, why can't he be effective? Why can't he be one of the better running backs in our conference, in our league? To me, that's the expectation from Miles Sanders, and nothing less will get him closer to the contract that he's looking for than having over 1,000 yards rushing, have a bunch of touchdowns, but also playing in 14, 15, 16 games this season.
Two quick ones for you. One, it's come up a lot about Philadelphia. Your old teammate, my friend Trey Thomas, our friend Trey Thomas has talked about how Philly ain't for everybody. We could be tough on players. What was your experience like playing in front of the Philly fans?
You know, it's tough for me to even think that Philly's tough on players. I think that there's an expectation of their players, but I've always believed my expectation of myself was always going to be higher than anyone else's expectation. And my goal is to live up to that expectation. And let's say I fell short of that expectation. No one's going to know that before I do. So no matter what Mark Farzetta says and this guy and that guy, I've already heard it. I've already seen it. I'm judging myself much harder than anyone else can judge me. So when I'm hearing other stuff from other people, it doesn't even matter to me because I'm the judge. I'm the one that's going to put myself in the line and say, okay, you got to be better here. You ran for 75 yards. You had another 25 yards that you didn't achieve because you don't have your eyes open. You're not looking at the hole. So, I mean, yeah, Philadelphia is tough to play for if you're not honest with yourself. But if you're completely honest with yourself, you've already heard this stuff. They're knowledgeable. They're smart enough to watch the film and say, hey, he should have cut outside, but he cut inside. They're good enough to be able to do that. I love the passion of our fans. I love that they want to hold you accountable. But to me, it was always about Brian Westbrook holding Brian Westbrook accountable. And if someone else says it, something different, then I would say, hold on, time out. You must not have watched the film correctly. I did all these things right. Now, all these other things I did bad, but you didn't talk about that. So to me, I love playing in Philadelphia because the thought was they're going to hold you accountable. That's the type of fan base that I want to play for.
You know what? You had me pegged. I was the only guy in the mid-2000s that was like, this team needs to pass more. Stop giving it to Westbrook. So, no. Last thing for you, overall expectation, number of wins. Can you give me that for this upcoming Eagles season? What are you expecting?
I think this team has the ability to win, 11, 12 games. I really do. I think, and that is provided that Jalen Hurts comes through. And I know he will. Here's the other thing that I feel about Jalen Hurts. I think that Nick Sirianni will try to pass the ball early. If it just can't figure it out, then you go back to the run, you fall back to that. And I think you can still win them. They won 9 games last year running the football without A.J. Brown, without Jordan Davis, without Nakobe Dean in the middle of the field, without James Bradbury on that side of the defense. So you mean to tell me that those collection of guys, even if Jalen Hurts is the same guy, they're not worth a game or two? To me, it's obvious that this is a double-digit win football team. Now, can they be special? Because if you talk about this team being special, if you talk about Jalen Hurts being special, now you're talking about a 12 and 13 type of win football team. That's when we start having those conversations that we really want to have here in Philadelphia.
Could not agree more. Always hustling, Brian Westbrook. Make sure you guys check him out. Also, get his book. Come on, if you got kids, this is the book to read to your kids. The Mouse Who Played Football by Brian Westbrook, of course, and Leslie Van Arsdale, illustrated by Mr. Tom. And if you guys are around Friday at noon, make sure you go down to Fowles Road in Wilmington, Delaware, 1300 Fowles Road in Wilmington, Delaware, at the Brandywine 100 Library at noon Friday, where he'll be signing copies of the book. B. West, always great catching up with you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Mark. Take care, buddy.
Absolutely. My thanks to Brian Westbrook, Eagles legend, joining me right there. And I think he set a really interesting bar for Jalen Hurts. And he talked about the chip on the shoulder for Miles Sanders. But I haven't heard people really throw out those types of numbers. Decrease the interception, 25 touchdowns, 4,000 yards passing. I haven't heard people put out those numbers for Jalen Hurts. And if he can do that, then you're looking at a guy that could be here for the foreseeable future. And that's a guy that I think the Eagles front office will trust. I think right now, granted, this is before the season. Like I started the show out by saying before it matters, Jalen Hurts has the trust of the team, I feel. I feel like it's not just players speak when they're asked about Jalen Hurts. They're not just going, well, yeah, he's a hell of a player. We're looking forward to going to the season. No, they're like going over the top. Jason Kelce, when he talked about Jalen Hurts, went over the top and talked about the work ethic and what he brings to the field each and every day and how he's a leader already at 24 years of age and how a quarterback in the NFL needs to be a leader, but him being this young, already a leader on the team. A.J. Brown, more of a veteran player. He's the same type of way, talking about the type of leadership this guy brings to the field. And obviously they have that relationship. Same thing with Devontae Smith, same thing with Dallas Goedert. They trust in their quarterback. Now it's a matter for that quarterback to keep that trust going when the season starts and when it matters the most. And also show that he can lead a pass-first offense. He can lead a modern NFL offense going into this season. That's what he needs to prove. And then after that, as he builds, as he stacks wins, and he pays rent every day because it's due every day, as we all know, then we will see whether or not this guy will be the quarterback of the future. I have faith and confidence that he will be. And Brian Westbrook just put out some really interesting numbers that Jalen Hurts needs to get to in order to help further the cause. It's not just about winning a playoff game. It's not just about that standard. That's the ultimate prize, but it also has to, like, this team could win a playoff game being a run-first offense. This team could win a playoff game being a dominant defense. But it more or less comes down to whether or not Jalen Hurts, whether or not you're going to win because of Jalen Hurts. Are you winning? And let's just say the hypothetical comes out there where maybe you just take an average quarterback, put him on this team with these weapons and that defense. Maybe he can win a playoff game. Jalen Hurts has to be above average. You're in a decision-making year for Jalen Hurts, even more so than you were last year because that contract has to come after this season. The old lame duck quarterback. No one is going to be looking at that, especially when you have 2 first-round picks. It's a pretty good draft class when it comes to the quarterback position coming up in the NFL draft. But my thanks once again to Brian Westbrook for joining the show. Much appreciated. How about that? What do you say, Real Housewives and Below Deck? Have you seen these programs? I know some guys, they admit to them as their guilty pleasure, more or less as B. West just did. But I know my wife, big fan of these programs. And I don't get it. I don't get it why you would sit there and watch people get pissed off at each other at their problems. Like, that's where, like, I'm a big fan of perspective and trying to have the right perspective in life. I don't really know if those guys have the right perspective. I'm going to go ahead and assume they don't. Throw my Dom Perignon in your face because, we're broke. Well, maybe stop throwing the Dom Perignon in somebody else's face. They're broke sitting in my mansion. Like, it's not really reality TV. Most of it's scripted. Yeah, but even more reason not to watch it. It's lying to you from the title. Anyway, from the genre, I should say. Thanks, B. West. Always good catching up. One last thing I want to say on Brian Westbrook. When Brian Westbrook went to San Francisco, I was out there doing a Sunday night game, and I thought to myself, I was working at WIP at the time, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna get some audio. I'm gonna interview Brian Westbrook about being out there in San Francisco and what it's like versus Philly and all that stuff. And I went up to him in his locker, and he shot me down. He said no to the interview. But the way he did it, like, usually when you're getting shot down for an interview, you're getting some lame excuse where the guy is just a jerk. And you're just like, there's a nice way to say no, basically. And I don't believe I've ever been turned down for an interview kinder than Brian Westbrook. Like, he was genuinely remorseful that he couldn't do it. And he was like, well, I have to, he's like, I appreciate you coming out here. I can't do it. I explained I was with Sunday Night Football, so it wasn't like I flew all the way out just to talk to him. And first off, I'm an idiot if I didn't book him ahead of time, just fly out to talk to the guy. But he was just like, he's like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I can't do it today. I got it. It's some family thing. And it was like, I could tell he wasn't like putting me off. And I was like, I've never been shot down that kindly for an interview. And I was like, what a guy. You know, it was one of those things where it was just like, I can't do it. It's just like, I liked him even more for the way he did it. It was just ultimate respect for Brian Westbrook. A gentleman. And speaking of gentlemen, fellas, you want to look good everywhere, right? Well, that's where Manscaped enters the chat. And manscaped.com. You see it in the scroll below. Manscaped.com, 20% off when you use promo code Farzy. That's right. Go to manscaped.com. I'll read it from the scroll. Go to manscaped.com and use promo code Farzy for 20% off your order, especially with the Platinum Package 4.0. Fellas, this is what you got to use. You know why? Skin-safe technology. It helps reduce the risk of nicks so that you can manscape with confidence and comfort. It includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer in the Platinum Package 4.0 and Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, plus Ultimate Premium Body Wash, 2-in-1 shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant, Crop Reviver ball spray toner, anti-chafing boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag that'll help hold all the goods that you'll be using to take care of your goods with Manscaped. Manscaped is the leader in below the waist grooming. Now just trust them with the whole shebang. You can join the 4 million men worldwide just to trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy. How about Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. Also use promo code Farzy for 20% off at Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. Promo code Farzy for 20% off. If you use CBD, if you want to get some CBD, if you want to try CBD, this is the CBD that you should try. FreestoneFarmCBD.com. The menu is something that you'll absolutely have to check out with strains like their insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu,
Kush.
and 21%. The genetics of these guys are absolutely off the charts. They grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with all organic inputs and IPM, so there's nothing synthetic from farm to jar. And after harvest, they carefully preserve all the plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Just one look or smell. That's enough to know that CBD done right. It's the perfect gift for people that enjoy CBD, and also the perfect thing for people that are looking to take a more natural approach to everything they put in their body. So once again, go to FreestoneFarmCBD.com, use promo code Farzy for 20% off at checkout with promo code Farzy. Fellas, do you have a problem in the bedroom? Do you have a problem in the bedroom? If you do, BlueChew.com. By now, you've heard of Blue Chew and BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men combat all forms of ED. And again, Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so there's no embarrassing trips to the doctor or pharmacy as Blue Chew ships right to your door in a discreet package. And here's the Blue Chew process. You sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive their prescription within days. And it's all done online. Also, Blue Chew is a licensed medical provider. You know what they'll do? They'll walk you through everything to help find the ingredient and strength, the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. And if you don't like swallowing pills, no problem here. Blue Chew's tablets are chewable, so it's not just a clever name. Blue Chew's tablets are also made here, right here in the good old US of A. And they prepare and ship directly to your house, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy. Once again, special deal for our listeners and viewers. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code Farzy at checkout. Pay just $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code Farzy, all one word. BlueChew.com, promo code Farzy, and you'll receive your first month free. Just pay $5 shipping. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's jump into the chat check and see how you fine people are doing today. Kevin, going on? What's going on, Kevin? Nice to see you. John Cheeseburger, what's up, bud? Popeye the Sailor Man. Oh, my goodness, we're all to get dead. April, Sean Gillespie. What a day already. What a day. Just for Men Connection is really messing with good old Keith's brain cells. Mally, you know what? I couldn't help it. I had to crunch some numbers on Keith Hernandez. We'll get to that in the morning rush in just a second. Keith Hernandez is a goober who needs to drink his fight milk and shush. PJ, God bless you. Producer Jim chiming in with that one. Love it. I love the goober. Calling someone a goober, I don't know what it is. It just warms my heart. There's something about it that just warms my heart. Someone who this is from John Cheeseborough. Someone who shall not be named is now trying to say Keith Hernandez is going to be in St. Louis for the 82 Cardinals 40th anniversary weekend during the Phillies series. Mm-hmm. Hey, Paul. What's up, Paul Gaston? Good morning. John Cheatham, Keith Hernandez acted like the Mets are so perfect. I want the Phillies to make the Mets look so bad just so Keith Hernandez has to deal with it. I hope Keith Hernandez gets jury duty. Wow, John Cheeseborough. John, I was reminded of you actually over the weekend. And stay with me here. I stubbed my toe over the weekend. The worst I ever have in my life. All right? And I got some gangly toes. All right? I was on my way to the Phillies game on Saturday. I was getting ready. I was running around the house. And it was like somebody moved my banister and the spindles in 6 inches. Like some ghost came and moved my banister. And I was like, oh, God. So I go to the game, and I'm limping, and it was fine. The toe was fine. I checked it out, and it was fine. And then I talked to my cousin Will, and he was like, oh, you stubbed your toe. You limping? I was like, yeah. He's like, why? I was like, I stubbed my toe really bad, which is always that's really nice. You have to admit that. And he goes, oh, that's what I wish on people when they wrong me, is that I hope they stub their toe the worst they ever had in their life. And I thought of you, John Cheeseborough, because that's like something you would wish on someone. It's not like a serious thing, but it's enough to get their attention. So anyway, I come home after the game. It's like 1 a.m. I take my shoe off, and I look at my toe, and it was black. It wasn't even blue. It was just black. It was like, hi, I'm probably broken, idiot. And I'm like, I broke my toe. It's fine now. It's already cleared up. It's a couple days later. Look at that. But John, stub toes make me think of you. Keith Hernandez has a watery. I hope Keith Hernandez has watery ketchup. Popeye the Sailor Man, laughing at that, John. I hope Keith Hernandez has an inner monologue voiced by Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Do I even need to say it? I won't wet the tooth in. Thank you, PJ. You had to explain that to me many months ago. In fact, I hope Keith Hernandez hears that Chili's baby back ribs jingle on repeat, and he never is able to say ribs. Ever. T-Bro, what's up? Alex, what's up, Alex? How are you? Usually I do podcasts, but needed to watch this episode. Alex, welcome. And by the way, thanks to all the people that are listening to the podcast. To the people on the podcast. If only I had a way where I directly talk to the people on the podcast.
To the people on the podcast, the numbers have been awesome lately. Thank you so much. You guys are fantastic. Maybe I'll just maybe this is how I'll do the show from now on.
I had my old friend Josh Innes actually recently question my my mic etiquette.
And I think the people on the podcast love my mic etiquette.
Anyway, busy beautifying crap hole corners in this city. Phillies are scorching hot, not as hot as Mark's shirt, though. JC, to the corner I go. Dan Schwartz, nice to see you. This is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite shirts. I do love this shirt, I must admit. I love some trash TV. Definitely makes me feel better about myself. April, that's why people watch it. Am I wrong? The fact that you call it trash TV and you're addicted to it, at least, I'm not saying addicted, but like the people call it trash TV and they're addicted to it, like you're acknowledging that they got you. Like, this is crap. I'm watching it. It's trash, but I'm not going to look away from it. April, I love some trash TV. Matt Snell, love me some Brian Westbrook. There you go, Matt Snell. Who doesn't love them some Brian Westbrook? I mean, it's B West. You wake up early for him. Alex, you're right. Now, what am I going to do for my drive to work today, though? Play me again? See what you missed? Alex, plus, it's already 7. Oh, goodness gracious. We're already in the show an hour. I'm just doing the chat check. I was thinking the same thing. Darian. Oh, we're going a little longer today, so that's where I got to there. Julian! What? April, right there. Just listen again. Julian, good morning, Farzy family. Good morning, Julian. Long time no speak. I have been converted to a podcaster now. New work schedule.
Work sucks. I know.
Alex Young, holy goodness, Julian is back. I like when you guys welcome each other back. It is a podcast. It is a chat family in the chat check. Sean Gillespie, I was going to say the same thing. Brian Westbrook, incredibly inspirational. Yes. Did Farzy just call B West old? Evan, I know exactly what you're referring to. And I think it was along the lines of something like, B West, it's been 1,000 years since you played football. I said something like that. I believe it was like, it's been a minute, it's been a while, whatever I said. Yeah, as soon as the words were out of my mouth, I was like, nice job, idiot. That's nice enough to come on your show. And you're like, hey, old timer. Which, by the way, on that note, there's a listener of this show who's a friend of mine, Aaron Talaznik, who I used to work with at NBC Sports Philly. And Aaron worked with Brian Westbrook for a while at NBC. And Aaron has the nickname of Fanboy, even though he was working in sports media. Fanboy. So he would tell Brian Westbrook about how much Brian meant to him and how much he loved watching Brian Westbrook as he grew up. Like, Aaron loved watching B West. Oh, man, my childhood. Oh, it was great. watching you when I was growing up. And like after a while, B West was like, dude, I'm old. Hold on. After a while, B West said to Aaron, dude, you're older than me. And you're saying that you grew up like, what are you, 25? Like looking at me going, wow, I got this poster on my wall. B West. And knowing Aaron, he totally did. Dude, you're older than me. And that only solidified my own personal rule of I don't wear a jersey of anyone I'm older than. All of the jerseys I own are people from my childhood. That's my rule. So all my jerseys are throwbacks. The kids, college, probably into college, you can wear go ahead and wear your Schwarber jerseys. Like in my mind. That's how I operate. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not judging you. I'm just telling you these are the guidelines I have in my life. So yes, I think I did call Brian Westbrook called. Go ahead, make those kids watch you performing miracles for the Eagles. There you go, Sean. There you go. Jay Brown. Jalen Hurts just has to have a place where he can, put the ball on the target. I agree. Be accurate. Jay Brown, I totally agree with you. April, between him and B-Dog, they make me want to run through a wall. April, absolutely. Cody, what's going on, Cody? Mullet Alvarado, Toby said it right, too. You got to hold yourself to a high standard. Ben didn't do that. Complete ownership of your life, and no matter what your profession. Absolutely. Accountability, Mullet. That's how we operate in Philadelphia. Respect is not given. Dog nabbit. What was it? Dog nabbit? Dang nabbit? You're quoting Brian Dawkins because he wouldn't curse. Snot bubbles with Cheeseboro. Let's see here. Oh, man, so many chats. You guys are great. I did not see Hard Knocks. I'm afraid to watch Hard Knocks because Dan Campbell scares me. That's a guy that was talking about, I'm not exaggerating, he was alluding to doing blow in his press conferences last week. Like 24 cups of coffee, whatever the hell it was, and blow. That guy's a little too biting kneecaps while Nick Sirianni's talking about planting daisies? Yeah, I don't think so. As much as people talk about Sirianni, Dan Campbell is insane based on I agree. Never understood called reality shows, just stupid, mindless, arguing or I agree. Sean, it is stupid. Best reality show, the Joe Schmo Show, where the only main characters didn't know it was fake. All the rest of the cast were actors, but yeah, it's sad form of entertainment. That's why I like shows like The Office or even Parks and Rec that make fun of reality show. Like they talk to the camera and all that. I find that hilarious. I like that more than anything. Plus, I love the art of writing comedy. I find that to be a lot more respectful. Hope the batteries in Keith Hernandez remote die when he accidentally turns to something and doesn't want to see it. John, that's one of your best ones. Lincoln's Hawk. What's up, Link? Be the ball. Be the ball. It's like a switch. It's flip it. It's like a switch. All right. Boop. The Office. Yes, got to watch it straight through from John. I don't know how many times I watched The Office straight through. At least 5 or 6 times. God, dog, knobbit. I don't think he said God. Something tells me John. Something tells me John that Brian Dawkins wouldn't say dog. I think he'd say dag nabbit, or dog nabbit, something like that. But I could be wrong, as I have been in most of my life. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome, as per usual. Much appreciated. If I didn't get to you, Miss Guzzi. But thank you very much. Let's all go into Sky Motorcars Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. One more thing for Keith Hernandez. Okay, this is for our friend Keith Hernandez. Wouldn't you know it that up until this year, the Phillies have been the better baseball team than the New York Mets? He talked about 2 things in this little rant. He talked about fundamentally, which is okay, and then he talked about defensively. Well, defensively, he's just flat out wrong. Do you know the New York Mets, each of the last 2 years, have committed more errors than the Philadelphia Phillies? Did you know that? Did you know that this year, with Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber, 2 guys that we thought were going to be absolute butchers, and Alec Boehm, who's come around a bit at the third base position, do you know that the New York Mets over the last 2 years have committed more errors, including this year, than the Philadelphia Phillies, and that this year with the aforementioned names, Bohm, Castellanos, Schwarber, the Phillies have committed the third fewest errors in all of baseball. And then he wants to talk about fundamentals. Well, here's a little thing for you there, Keith Hernandez. Odubel Herrera isn't here anymore. So that's good. And also this, which I didn't realize. I knew the Mets weren't blowing people out of the water before this season, that they're incredible. But listen to this. Let's see. This year, the Phillies have lost 3 of 12 to the, 3 of 12 to the Mets. The Mets are 9-3 against the Phillies this year. But the 3 previous years leading up to this year's, the Phillies have beaten the Mets in their season series each of the last 3 seasons. This year, not looking so good, but each of the last 3 seasons. And when it comes to just overall record, 3 of the last 4 years, the Phillies have had a better record than the New York Mets. So, Keith Hernandez, with all due respect, what the hell are you talking about? When you're talking about fundamentals, you're talking about defensively, you guys have committed more errors than the Phillies, which is hard to do with names like Schwarber and Castellanos playing in the field as often as they have. What are you talking about when the Phillies have had a better record up until this year than the New York Mets? And when it comes to head-to-head, the last 3 seasons, again, not including this one, the Phillies have had a better head-to-head record than the Mets. So when you're talking about how terrible the Phillies have been, they've actually been better than the Mets. And if you want to talk about the Mets in the last, 5 years at least playing in a World Series, 6 years playing in a World Series, that's fine. In the last 10 years, you guys have made the playoffs 2 more times than the Phillies. So no matter how you shake it, no matter how you look at it, you can't say that far and away the Mets collectively over the last 5 years have been some incredible, infallible team compared to the Philadelphia Phillies, when statistically speaking, the Phillies have been the better team in the 2 categories that you highlighted. And the ultimate spiking of the football is that, Odubel Herrera is not here anymore to make us go, what the hell is he doing? Instead, now we can look at Keith Hernandez and go, what the hell are you talking about? The Phillies are not fundamentally sound and not defensively. You know what? Not a lot of us would disagree with that, to be honest with you. But if you're going to talk about fundamentals, Odubel's not here anymore. When you talk about the defense, the Mets have committed more errors than the Phillies. Mets this year, sure, might be far and away better than the Phillies. Probably are. But when it comes to the last couple of years here, do you want to talk about how they're not worth your time? Dude, you're watching the Mets. How do you stomach the Mets? This year, I get. But over the last couple, Phillies have been the better ball club. Ridiculous. I gotta admit, the Just for Men commercials I always laughed at. I thought they were over the top ridiculous. And I enjoy over the top ridiculous. So that's my little rant on Keith Hernandez there. And just to put a capstone on that, who the hell do you think you are again? All right, anyway. Phillies and Marlins back at it tonight. See what the Phillies have to offer after going 61-48 with last night's win. 7:05 start time. Hopefully not nearly as much rain in tonight's ball game. Noah Syndergaard gets his second start as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. His second start as a member of the Phils. He'll go against Sandy Alcantara. So it'll be a little bit of a tougher one tonight. Alcantara, the All-Star, 10-4 with a 1.88 ERA. Syndergaard in his 1 start as a member of the Phillies, a 7.20 ERA. So let's see how this one goes. Syndergaard, in that start for the Phillies that he had, was his first start in 10 days by his count after the game. He went 5 innings, which is pretty decent for him. 5 innings, 11 hits, a lot of dinks and dunks, but 11 hits is 11 hits. 4 runs scored. And let's hope he settles in nicely. It'll be 6 days rest, which will be, I believe, the 14th start, I want to say, this season, with him with at least 6 days rest in between starts. So hopefully Noah Syndergaard will be on point in tonight's game. That's the show, folks. My thanks once again to Brian Westbrook for joining us. And my thanks to everyone here in the chat. You guys were great. Great to catch up with all you guys and all that. Was that a John Travolta impression? I don't think it was. Don't get me started. I've been listening to way too much Dana Carvey podcast with David Spade, the Fly on the Wall podcast, where it seems like the John Travolta impression works its way in. He walks in with his little feet. Anyway, that's terrible. Recency bias is real with him. There you go. Everyone, thanks so much. You guys are great. My thanks to Jim Hyde, who produced the program, did a wonderful job. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. My name is Mark Farzetta. Like, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff across all our social media platforms. Much appreciated. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Brandon Lee Gouton, Bleeding Green Nation, will join us tomorrow to break down all things Eagles. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.